What's up, guys? It's Daniel here from Apologetics.com, where science, reason, and Christianity meet. Today I want to talk about an interesting article I came across from Kevin DeYoung. As you can see by the title of the article, it says it's time for a new cultural war strategy. It was fairly recently written in the Gospel Coalition, and so it's an interesting read. And I'll have a link to it underneath in the dialogue, in the description down below. One thing I want to point out, kind of give you a big overview. He thinks that we should take a slightly different direction, not totally, but we should really ramp up a certain segment of our direction, our strategy, our tactic. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's actually a good thing. It's something very biblical, and that has to do with children. That we should not only be having more children, but when we do have them, that we need to disciple them much better. Alright, so before I get going, I want to just remind you, if you are enjoying this video so far, please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, and please punch that little bell so you get reminders. Also, do check out the website down below, where I have a link to my main blog where I have all my articles there. And he starts out saying it's been a bad year, it's been bad news, with a lot of bad news for conservative Christians. Why? Because of a number of things, especially the Supreme Court decision that was just handed down that really had some bad items where the courts accepted whatever one wants to identify as in the sexually, and they thought that, and he thinks, and other Christians think, that this kind of like a slap in the Christians and the Christian worldview. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go jump down to a place I've highlighted below, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts here. He says this: many of those voters, talking about those who voted for Trump, who actually helped get some of the different Supreme Court justices in there. He says many of those voters went to bed on Monday feeling disappointed and disillusioned after the vote. I am not making an argument whether it was right or wrong for Christians to vote for Trump in 2016, or whether they should or shouldn't have voted for him in 2020, or should be voting for him. My point is simply to remind evangelicals and just Christians in general, good Christians, conservative, authentic Christians in general, that politics and politicians will almost always disappoint. It's always been a mistake to think that we are one president or one Supreme Court justice away from a resounding victory in the cultural war. Maybe there's more important ways to promote Christian virtue and to preserve Christian orthodoxy in the world. And that's so true. Politics do not save a person. Politics is not Jesus. The president is not our savior. So we really need to back up and say, this earth is not our home. This world is not our home. This country, this nation is not our home. We have something bigger. That does not mean that we just drop it off and don't care about it. That's not his point. That's not my point. But we do have to remember that we have bigger issues, and that is what he's going to talk about here in a few minutes. He says this: some people take Rod Dreher's Benedict option, the book, to mean a wholesome retreat from the public square. He says this: that's not the way of faithfulness. We must continue to make case for Christian convictions and continue to be involved in politics, in higher education, and media, and wherever else we can be a faithful presence. This is really important. Go out in your workplace. If you work at a big corporation, if you work at a car dealership, if you work as a manufacturer, it doesn't matter what you do. Go out and share Christ with the culture. Be the Christian. Your actions have to be before your message as it comes after your actions. And they have to kind of be actually together, but you better be living a way that is Christianly. He says this: but retreat is really not the point of the Benedict option. Dreher's point has always been that we must recommit ourselves to strengthen alternative institutions, investing in counterculture church communities, and catechizing our own children. This builds a foundation. The sentence or so builds a foundation of the rest of the piece. And he says this, let me underscore the last item. I am grateful for serious Christians involved in the political arena. What happens in DC matters. Elections have consequences, But then he says something has more. He says that families have more. To marshal our energies as if political victories were more important than strengthening the family is decidedly unconservative position. I'm not calling for abandoning politics, but I am asking the question, what does it profit a man if he gets the textualist on the Supreme Court but loses his own children? Guys, we need to go back and look at the family. We need to go back and address the family. We need to go back and ground the family. Here's a culture war strategy he gives. He says this: conservative Christians, authentic Christians, I should say, should get behind, have more children, and disciple them like crazy. He's serious here. He goes on talking about how you should have as many as you can, that you can actually handle. And he says this. He says, I have said before in the not too distant future that the only couples replacing themselves in America will be religious couples. Although there are many good reasons to have a baby, at the end of the day, as Jonathan Last maintains, there's only one good reason to go through the trouble a second time, because you believe in some sense that God wants you to. The basic reason countries stop having children is because they come to see offspring as a liability rather than a source of hope. As Christians, we know better. As Christians, we have the biblical framework that says, hey, children are a blessing from God. Do you want to rebel against the status quo? Of course we do want to rebel against the status quo. So here's the thing. If we look at the status quo and we're trying to see what can we do, he gives us an answer, what thing you can do. Do you want people to ask you for the reasons for the hope that is in you? Talking about 1 Peter 3:15. Tote your brood of children through Target or Walmart or Menards or any other store. There is almost nothing more countercultural than having more children. And once we have those children, there is almost nothing more important than catechizing them. That means discipling them like crazy. Catechizing them in the faith, developing their moral framework, and preparing them to be deeply compassionate lovers of God and lovers of people and relentless biblical lovers of truth. Understand that being a good parent does not guarantee believing children. This is so true. So many parents just assume that if you get a kid saved, and this is one of my concerns with Western Christendom right now, is that, just get someone saved. And once they're saved, they can go out and you can go out and get someone else saved. It's like, great. No, you have to disciple. Okay. The Bible talks about discipling people. Same with your children. You need to disciple them. It's not this just get saved and move on to the next person. It's give, save, and disciple them. Otherwise, this person's inoculated to Christianity. And they're like, oh, I'm saved. I can do whatever I want to do. And then they fall away. Here's the thing. We should not go to the table. We should not go to having kids thinking that those kids are going to fall away. We should assume they're not. And so we should treat them like they're not. We should treat them in a way that is focused on giving them the Christian worldview. Just like our marriages. We do not go to a marriage situation. We do not get married assuming that there's going to be a divorce. If you do, you're failing. Here's the thing. If you jump in your car and every time you go to the store, you're always thinking about, what if I get in an accident? I think we'll get in an accident today. It's like, it's just terrible for your mental health. You probably will have an accident because you're so jittery. No, you go with confidence that you're not going to have an accident. Now, if you do, you do. But that's called an accident. So what you go, though, is with confidence that you know how to drive and you know that other people around you know how to drive. So you need to keep that in mind. I understand that many couples will be unable to have all the children they want to have. So here's the thing. You may be a couple who cannot have kids. You may be a couple that only has one child. You may be a single person. You may be older. You may be younger. This is a great opportunity that you're in right now, that you can serve God in other ways. You can make an impact on the culture. Think about the little things you can impact, such as homeless missions. That's powerful. How about this one? How about pregnancy centers? That's powerful. How about inner city racial reconciliation? That's huge. The church should be part of that as well. You can donate tons of your time for those types of things. Those are just 3 of many things you can pick and choose for God's kingdom. He goes on to say this: we have to allow for God to work in mysterious ways that we would not have planned, and yet, insofar as we're able, let us welcome new life and give our children that best opportunity for new birth. Presidents and Supreme Court justices will come and go. A child's soul will last forever. And so many people look at their temporal stuff, their big fancy house, their big fancy car, their big fancy vacation, their big fancy boat, their big fancy job as being eternal. It's not. Your kids' souls are. So focus on them. Focus on the things that are eternal, the things that God gave you. You need to be focusing on the little things. Focus on the things that you can actually handle. You see, not none of us, but a lot of us, most of us, 99.9% of us will never have a big platform. We will never have some sort of government leadership position or some sort of we will never be some sort of huge talk show host. We will never be able to impact thousands and millions of people. But we can all impact 10 people, 5 people, 1 person, 20 people. And if everyone does that, wow, what a big impact the world will have. That means this, is that within 20 years, if we all band together, if we all decide as authentic Christians to go out and raise our kids with authority, with authenticity, with authentic faith, with truth, what a difference this culture will be. He says this, the future belongs to the fecund, which means those who reproduce. It's time for happy warriors to seek and renew the city and win the culture war by investing in the local church, focusing on the family and bringing the kingdom to bear on the world, one baby at a time. And to start this is that you need those kids to be followers of Christ. You need those people around you to be followers of Christ. You need your neighbors, your friends, your relatives to be followers of Christ. That's how you can change the culture war, through the minds of those around you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and please pop that little bell over there so you get updates when new videos come out. Also, don't forget to check out my iapologia.com website, where I have different articles on different issues that we are dealing with today, from science to philosophy to social issues. Also, don't forget to check out the iApologia Facebook and Twitter accounts. Hopefully there you get some great articles from all over the world, much more than which I ever could write. Articles, movies, videos, different memes that are just powerful, that you enjoy. What can you do? Build your family, build your community, build those around you. Make sure you know what you believe and why, so you can impact the culture. And when you do impact the culture, you will have substance. So the encouragement for you is this: go out, give your world Christ.